Hello, welcome to another episode of Frank Talk. I am Desmond Utome. We'll be talking about the anti-corruption crusade of Mr. President and the open governance. They are from the Open Contracting Partnership, and how with me is Mr. Heyman.
Thank you very
and
much.
Mrs. Claude.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe you can just tell us your name properly for those who don't know to understand, get to relate to them properly.
Sure, so I'm Gavin Heyman, I'm Executive Director of the Open Contracting Partnership. The Open Contracting Partnership is a silo-busting collaboration working globally with government, civil society, businesses and technologists to open up public contracting and public procurement around the world.
Okay, how long have this open contracting been in existence?
So we've been working now for 2 years independently. The original idea was spun out of the World Bank that kept seeing the same global challenges all around the world around public procurement. And I can summarize that challenge in one way, if it's helpful. It's where the kind of money and the power is, and all too often that leads to collusion and corruption. It's government's #1 corruption risk. At the same time, it's absolutely vital for international development and for good business. And so it's about spending government money on contracts with private companies to create the roads, the schools, the hospitals, and the goods and services that ordinary citizens really care about and need. And so our mission is to open up the whole contracting process to make sure that money is spent fairly, properly, and consistently, and gets great results for the people of Nigeria and elsewhere around the world.
Okay, you've been in Nigeria for how long now?
So we've been here in Nigeria for about a week on this particular visit. We've been working with the Nigerian government since the anti-corruption summit in May. So over the last 6 months or so, working on how we can improve the public procurement processes in Nigeria. And we've got sort of ideas about how to do that in 3 key ways. So first of all, how you improve the disclosure of the entire procurement process. So you can link, say, the planning or public procurement through to the actual tender and awards. So you can see fully transparently who won and how they won, and make sure the right person won the bids, that it was open and fair. And also you can see the public contracts, so what has been promised for taxpayers' money, and then you can see the implementation of those contracts. So very importantly, was the road, was the school, was the hospital built with that public money?
Yeah, in Nigeria we have a very robust public procurement process with a law that was amended under the former administration of the former government, Olusegun Obasanjo. Now we have a Bureau of Public Procurement. Would you say that the activity so far is welcome to what we do? Maybe I should take that to Claude.
Thanks very much. So the question is whether the BPP, the Bureau of Public Procurement, is open to working with us?
Yes.
Very much so.
And how would you rate the activities?
Well, Open Contracting Partnership does not rate governments. What we do is we have something called the Open Contracting Data Standard that is sort of a compilation of best practice of how best to disclose your data so that it's all along the procurement process, as Gavin just mentioned, but also open and accessible so that citizens can find the data and analyze it and use it. It helps to make it accessible and interesting and useful to citizens, to the government itself, and to businesses, the people that are actually bidding on the contracts. And this week we've been really impressed with the level of interest, the level of commitment, and the level of dedication from all of the actors. The BPP has been fantastic. They're actually, the e-procurement team there is the one that reached out to us in the first place, that initiated this sort of the current project that we're working with them on. We've been working for years with the Public and Private Development Center, which is an NGO here that works on public procurement issues.
PPDC?
PPDC, exactly. Really strong OC champion in Nigeria itself, and also helping other countries to move forward on OC. And we're also really excited by the interest from the private sector as well, the business community. So we've got what we like to call the golden triangle of government, civil society, and business sort of all in place here.
Would you say the government process, the procurement process of Nigerian government is sufficiently open to international standard?
Again, we don't rate, but there are a lot of pieces that are very much in place. And so what we're doing now is figuring out how to move, first of all, how to move that system online and to help make the system easier for the public procurement professionals to use. How can incorporating, I'll say, open contracting principles and the open contracting data standard into their work, how can it help make their work easier? We have sort of a set of building blocks that we like to call the different pieces of the procurement process that we encourage be disclosed. And as of now, BPP is tracking all of those. And so we're really helping to map what data they are collecting to what we call our data standard to figure out how we can best operationalize that and put the pieces together so that it's more accessible.
Or maybe I should bring this to Gavin. You are expecting that at the end of the day, with your activities with the Nigerian government, the procurement process would have been as open as possible for business to be done in this country? Is that what you're thinking?
That's very much the objective. So as I said, we work around the world. This is a universal challenge. It's not just a challenge for Nigeria. And what we're really looking to do is to join together all the bits of the entire chain of public contracting. So it's all open and fair and transparent. And open data can be a really powerful tool to do that, but then you have to use the data, and the government has to listen and act on what the information is telling them. We think there's definitely a kind of emerging centre of excellence with the BPP. They are trying to do the right thing, but it's difficult. It's difficult in these situations. Like building human capacity, it takes time. There's also a challenge, obviously, with there is corruption in the public procurement sector everywhere. I know it's an issue in Nigeria. There are some vested interests who may not want this openness necessarily to succeed. So part of our job is to align and bring together different stakeholders. And there's a kind of emerging sense of professionalization of public procurement in Nigeria, which I think is promising. I think it's very exciting. You have a kind of tech and data cluster and an indigenous kind of Nigerian technology business that's really emerging from Lagos and elsewhere, some of whom have already built a kind of model to show what can be done in Nigeria, a program called Budeshi, which means open it, PPDC, and they've been working with the Universal Basic Education Commission to actually track the health centres, in rural areas and getting good geographic locations as to where they are, what's meant to have been built, and then they've sent monitors out, sometimes even into the woods to actually go and check these centres exist and make sure that what has been promised and the public money has been spent is actually delivering great results for citizens. And that's the promise. It's joined together these different actors, and that hasn't happened perfectly so far. So if you talk to these monitors, they say this open data can really help us because we get all the bits of the puzzle, and then we can begin to follow the money and make sure it's been properly spent. So I think that's the promise that open contracting holds out to Nigeria. It will be hard work. There will be roadblocks. There will be inevitably some kind of political challenges.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what the challenges are that you have so far experienced. Like you just talked about the roadblocks. So what are the challenges so far you have experienced?
Well, I think one of the things we've seen globally, again, not just Nigeria, is different government departments tend to sit on their data and not want to share it. I saw that really clearly, I'm based out of Washington, D.C., and in America, one government department, there's a central broker, and it's like, we've got the information, thank you. Why would you want to share it with other people? It's for us. So that's always a challenge, getting different parts of the bureaucracy to collaborate. That said, we were very struck in our brief mission here that the Public Procurement Bureau of Public Procurement was bringing in civil society and trying to bring in the private sector to get those voices in. There's also sometimes a challenge with actually the quality of the information. So different government departments tend to build their own systems, sometimes without reference to each other. So how do you get the data to talk? And there's an issue of, I guess I'd call it silos. So what we do is we collaborate, we get people together in a room, we provide some tools and assistance to bring together the bits of the data chain, and then a set of international standards you can use to help a particular local solutions to be built. We're not about coming in as international people saying, this is what you must do. It's like about Nigerian solutions for Nigerian problems with a bit of international support and cheerleading and best practices from elsewhere. A great example, if I can share one with you, a country, Ukraine, obviously, and Eastern Europe. So Ukraine there was a revolution there at the end of 2013, the Maidan Revolution, when it was a very highly corrupt government at that time, was overthrown. As a result of that, the citizens, there's a big technology cluster there, businesses and government all came together to build a new public procurement system based around the open contracting data standard. And they had to go out, and there's a huge challenge of building government capacity to join up different government departments and so on. But now they've found 2.5 years on, they're getting great data out that gives them great analysis to buy more smartly as governments. They're seeing an increase in business participation in public contracting because they no longer think the system's rigged against them, particularly small businesses. I know Nigeria is suffering economic hard times at the moment. The oil price is not as high as it was. So all the more reason to kind of foster local entrepreneurship. I think the small to medium business sector will be the part of kind of Nigeria's next steps as an emerging economic powerhouse in Africa. So I'm kind of excited by the business opportunity here to grow entrepreneurialism in the country. And then lastly, they've also seen that government itself is saving money on public contracts. And in Ukraine, they've saved around about 13%. So
13.
on contracts, just because they're getting smarter at buying, and there's perhaps less rent in the system, for your contractors. So, they've got better at setting reference prices. And so one of the things we heard here is the BPP provides reference prices. That can be tricky if you aren't using a really good data set to get that information. So our hope is to make lives better kind of a bit for everybody. Done well, this could be really successful, but the BPP can't do it alone. They need Mr. President to join up the other bits of government as well. That makes sense.
Okay, your activity in Nigeria started after you met Mr. President at the Anti-Corruption Summit in May. Does your work here in Nigeria has official recognition of the President?
I think so. We have been collaborating with the Attorney General's office and Mr. President's special advisors and others. We've been directly hosted by the Bureau of Public Procurement. So we're very excited that Nigeria is joining the Open Government Partnership, which is great news. And perhaps open contracting will be one of the key points of Nigeria's wider Open Government Action Plan, because I think it will deliver great results for citizens and for business and for government. So yes, we think we've got kind of support, but then there's the job, if you like, of going beyond just the kind of high-level political support to actually link up with genuine practitioners. Some people have to do public procurements every day, it's their job, and you want a system that makes their lives easier, not harder. It shouldn't feel like it's an external box-ticking, compliance-based mechanism. It should feel like something like, this is great, I'm getting great data, I can track my projects more successfully, and I'm getting better results from my procurement. That's when they will win, and when they win, I think Nigeria as a system will win more.
Okay, maybe, let me come to you. Personally, are you satisfied with the kind of support or collaboration you are getting from the political leaders? And secondly, maybe just add if you also you can reconcile that support from the political leaders with the real bureaucrats in the system. Because it's possible that the president might want the system open, but the bureaucrats will just act as a stumbling block to you. Right,
and we've had some conversations that touch on that, but I think we've been lucky this week to be able to meet with a lot of disparate actors at different levels, and so hopefully we can continue to foster those relationships, and that will become a winning sort of collaboration among all of the different pieces of the puzzle. Am I personally satisfied? I think so. We've been able to get most of the meetings that we set out to get, and had really interesting discussions with a bunch of people that are really passionate about public procurement, which is not necessarily something that a lot of people are often passionate about. So it's been great to see, and we're looking forward to the next steps and building on what we've started here.
There's a new DG coming into the Bureau, so that will be crucial to see that he picks up and adopts and carries on the kind of momentum. So I think that's one key challenge. You're saying your frank talk, so talking frankly, also joining up the other bits of the government to make sure that finance and budget and planning as well are joined up. Then you can get the full chain of public procurement information. Those will be challenges. We're natural optimists, to be frank.
Okay, one thing is about opening up the system for people to see how much exactly contracts have been awarded. Another thing is the problem of over-invoicing in this part of the world. How is your activity going to help the government in ensuring that proper invoicing are done?
That's a great question. So one of the things we, for example, found is there is information in the Ministry of Finance tracking payments to contractors, but it's not by contract, it's just a general tracking of payments to contractors. So if you can actually break it down by contract, and you can say, okay, there was a milestone here, we're meant to have paid by that point. If you talk to a lot of people in the private sector, they'll say they have to wait ages to get paid, and that's a big problem. You're running a business and you have lots of ordinary workers to pay too. So you need a better system that works to both sides of those, and I think better tracking payments per contract should be good. And I think everybody around the world, in all governments, and certainly in mine from the UK, has seen situations where you've had huge public projects that have run kind of massively over budget and out of time. So better information to track that and track the payments, I think, is really important.
Okay, let me just hear from Claude what you expect to take out of this place, or maybe in the next 6 months, where do you intend to have Nigeria be?
These are our aspirations?
Yes, aspirations.
I think within 6 months, we'd like to see a solid open contracting commitment in Nigeria's first open government action plan, which, as I understand, is being developed between now and the beginning of December, when everyone will meet in Paris for the global summit. That would be fantastic. We're also in the process of helping BPP to map their data, as I mentioned, to what we call the Open Contracting Data Standard, So it'll be fantastic to help them move along in the next steps in that process and figure out sort of what reforms might need to be implemented and help them get the support they need to make that happen.
Can I add one more thing? Which
Yeah,
would be a genuine embedded partnership between civil society, government, procurement professionals and others on this open contracting work. So there's a really good kind of Nigeria-specific action plan that is owned by that kind of coalition that can really sort of come up with great plans and then hope local Nigerian sort of solutions to some of the challenges that we faced inevitably along the way.
Yeah, we'll go on a short break and we will return. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Klotz will be ready enough with us. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome back, Mr. Gavin. What do you want to talk to us about? Maybe there are other kind of international collaboration you're engaging in getting this assignment done.
Sure. So in terms of following up on the London Anti-Corruption Summit, there's lots of global collaborations going on. So in terms of our work on public procurement, as I said, we're working in kind of 30 plus countries. So perhaps the most exciting actually are the local collaborations, which is why we're here today. It's great to see the kind of the bottom-up energy because people really care about the goods and services. Then we also work internationally with bigger kind of global agencies, and we also work with corruption hunters and people who want to use the data. So great organisations such as, say, Global Witness or Transparency International, who might particularly take the data and start drilling into it to look at questionable public procurements. And there's also journalists. If you look at the Panama Papers, for example, that was showing a whole series of kind of offshore shell structures that were abusing kind of, like a government's, deals to hide assets and steal money. And so we think this shines a light on perhaps the most vulnerable link in the chain, which is where the real money is spent by government with companies and things tend to go wrong from there. So we're quite open, given our name, to collaborations kind of across the globe. And then it's also worth saying we collaborate a lot with professional kind of procurement people. We just had a great meeting today with the Professional Procurement Association in Nigeria and really hearing about their expertise from having seen every different side to this. And then we also work perhaps on other issues like dealing with things like confidentiality in government contracts and myth busting on what is confidential and what isn't. So we talk to big international companies who want a fair and level playing field for doing business too. So I quite like the fact we get to talk to everybody, which is good. We get to see lots of different perspectives, and then we try to mobilise those together to join up to get real action for the people who really matter, who are the ordinary citizens who are spending and giving the taxpayer the money in the first place. Okay,
let me come to you. What is the size and shape of your collaboration with the media? Maybe you want to just take us through. There are so many media houses in Nigeria who want to collaborate with you. What should they do?
Sure, they're welcome to reach out to us just as you did. Come up to us after a talk or send us an email or go on our website. We're happy to get the word out on what we're doing, both here and further afield. So we're open to collaborating as best we can, both in terms of us as OCP and also around the projects that are actually happening on the ground. As things get moving here and data becomes more accessible and citizens start using that data, it'd be great to shine a light on what's happening and how that's useful and how that's actually having an impact. So we hope that this is just the beginning of a great collaboration.
Okay, maybe lastly, open society is not something that is usually very pleasing to any government, not in this part of the world. Don't you think that in no time you're going to start having problems with the government?
That's a great question. So I've worked at this for a while now, and I know it can be a challenge. What you're looking for is those government reformers who really understand why it will actually get better outcomes for, I guess, society as a whole, but also how it will really make their lives better. So if you look at, say, where these reforms have taken hold in countries like the Ukraine, there's no argument from the reformers in government that this can make a real difference because they're saving money. And then you speak to the small businesses and they're like, wow, this is great. We're finally able to win government contracts and we're the engines of kind of innovation in the economy. So what we try to do is you've got vested interests on the one side, then you have to construct bigger, more mobile coalitions on the other side. They may be a bit more diffuse, which is why we have to kind of bring people together and act as a catalyst. But I think, you know, people get the idea that this is public money and should be spent on great results. I mean, somebody was explained to us today, even if there are bribes taken, you know, as the government sort of person, you still need to get the road bill, right, to a sufficient quality. It's not a total disaster and you get, you know, like unelected again. So it was just interesting from that point of view that there's a real need for infrastructure and better services in these countries. And I think people are sitting on a powder keg if they don't stress that. So I think people understand that actually there's a real dividend from tackling corruption. And I would add, particularly given, you know, these kind of economically difficult times for Nigeria, you know, there's all the more reason to spend government money really wisely and really cleverly.
Thank you, Mr. Gavin.
Thank you,
Mr. Claude.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is the size of our program today. We are sure that at the end of the day, the government of the President Muhammadu Buhari will be more open to the people and anti-corruption will be taken to the next level. I remain Desmond Otoven, and this is Frank Talk.